Hi. I'd like to talk about taking big, scary, AO-talky ideas and things and turning them into practical, friendly, increase your quality of life type of things. Now, AO-talky is paranoid survivalist shorthand for end of the world as we know it. This is a situation that may be brought upon us by zombies, maybe robots, or more than likely, I think, zombie robots. And on that note, has anyone here seen Caprica? This is a short-lived TV series that's the prequel to the remake of Battlestar Galactica. It's a pretty simple story, all right, about a driven scientist whose genius daughter is killed in a terrorist attack. And this guy, he assembles all of the data ever generated about his deceased daughter. So badly does he want to replicate her. And he does. He creates this being that, despite existing purely in code, has passions and curiosities and memories, and she hates her parents. It's perfect. Just like it should be. And then he takes this confused, spiteful, smart simulacra of a teenager, and he downloads it into a militarized killing robot, which is a mistake. But the assertion is this, that at some point in the near future, a human being is synonymous with the sum of its data points. Now, this is fiction, right? But it's not totally far from the possible. IBM tells us that every day, 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created. A quintillion has got 18 zeros. That's a billion billions. We're talking actions, transactions, sensor input, anything and everything that creates the smallest recording. Couple and a half quintillion times every day. And what's more, IBM goes on to tell us that 90% of all the data that exists in the world today was created in the last 2 years alone. I know. But this apparently is what 1 billion people updating their status on Facebook will do for you. Now, you might not find deep meaning in the 700,000 or so Facebook posts that happen every minute, or the 2 million Google searches, or the 100,000 tweets, or the $275,000 spent online, all in the same amount of time, every minute of every day. But it does affect us. And if you think you're not participating, if you don't have a Facebook account, well, that's a piece of data too. Now, this vast accumulation of information is now so complex and interrelated that the only name for it, apparently, is big data. And when it starts to get aggregated and associated, a picture of each of us is assembled, the beginnings of this sort of synonymous being. And we're familiar with pretty basic data profiling, right? If you're young and you're male and you have a fast car, then your risk is high, and so your premium is high. I'd like to share information about what I'm up to with my family and friends, but I suck at writing letters. So I kind of let Facebook take care of that for me and give up a little privacy. I love my phone, my fancy phone. So who cares if it tracks where I go and what I do and maybe even who I'm doing it with. But I can adjust the privacy settings in my Facebook account, and I can stop my phone from tracking me. And that's one step from passive toward active. But why be active only in defense of my own privacy, right? Why can't we be proactive about the picture that data is creating of us? So, for the last few years here in New Mexico, I've been working with a group called Mix Santa Fe. And Mix is a professional networking organization, like thousands of others around the country. But instead of mingling a lot and exchanging business cards, Mix began with this premise. If you're going to get a bunch of really smart, talented, creative, interesting people in a room, why not crowdsource some information from them while you're at it? And it turns out that if you make a simple bargain with them in exchange for their information, like if you answer these questions, you'll get a free drink. They will tell you almost anything. Now, if, say, 200 to 500 people come to any given mix event, we're not exactly talking big data, right? This is much more modest data, and it's also much more human data, and it is, you know, embedded in a sort of relationship. You ask people what they want to be asked about, and then you ask them about that thing, and then you ask them how to move forward with real actions, and then you empower and promote and help generate those actions. And what kind of information do we start with? Pretty simple stuff. You might be surprised to know that most 20 and 30-year-olds in Santa Fe actually work in the field they want to be working in. But you might not be happy to know that unless there are some quality of life changes here for them, they're probably going to go do that work in some other city. You're probably not surprised to know that most people spend their disposable income eating out, but a lot of restaurants want to know how to capture more of that audience, right? And Mix knows that the answer, if there are any restaurateurs here, is Korean barbecue. So, when Mix first started on this data collection binge, we asked a really simple question. What's the problem, right? What is the problem? And we got a really thoughtful answer. This woman had ideas about nightlife and creative collaboration, and she went and found a bunch of other thoughtful people, and they created an alliance. And that alliance now has an annual festival that brings thousands of people into contact with artists and musicians that they wouldn't have otherwise necessarily encountered. And when Mix asked the business community what's missing, it made sense also to challenge people to come up with ideas for new businesses or how to evolve existing ones, and to go out and find money from the community to reward them to be able to move forward with their ideas. And when Mix began to aggregate all of its collected information about what people want here, you know, sort of big data style, people want nightlife, and they want vibrant streets and campuses. They want affordable space for businesses, and they want to retain talent in their community. It made sense to sort of apply this Mix data collection model, right? Have an event and collect information to St. Michael's Drive, an aging, car-focused commercial corridor that happens to have this very campus on it. So there was an event, a 3-day-long urban prototyping event. Mix worked with the city of Santa Fe and dozens of partners. Everyone was invited and got to show off if they wanted to. There were demonstration projects about a potential future or many potential futures, and people gave thousands of modest human bits of data and input. But we know this, certainly, overwhelmingly, people want this area to be a vibrant, human-scaled city center that's walkable, safe for bicycles, great for small businesses, it's a place for locals. And we know that more than anything, they want to move toward that target by empowering the neighboring communities, not by displacing the neighboring communities. Now, this may be pretty modest information, but I think it's powerful information. I think it's grounded in proactive human input. And it can be shared. Because the proliferation of big data is actually the end of the world as we know it. But maybe we could choose to make it the beginning of the world as we want it. Our identity as consumers and voters and insurance risks might be the purview of big data. But our identity as citizens and students and families and entrepreneurs and people within a community is under our control. So accept that you generate data, whether you like it or not, that someone somewhere is going to use for something. And ask yourself what the bargain is that you make in exchange for that information. And whether or not you can put your genuine knowledge about who you are and what you want and what kind of a world you want to live in to better use. And if you've got an idea or some information to share, let me know, because I will buy you a drink.